Hey, hey, hey. Okay, so we're back here for part two. Now, yesterday on part one, we really talked about some of the things that as entrepreneurs we go through when we're first starting out, right? We go and get the perfect website. We do all the social media marketing in the world. We try to define a target market. We go to all the association meetings. We do everything that we feel like we're supposed to do. We spend thousands of dollars on coaches, and all we find ourselves is with a lot more time that has passed by us, and we find our pockets a lot lighter. So there's one thing I do want to tell you in regards to finding a coach from part one that we talked about. The one mistake that I made when vetting a coach is that I did not ensure that the coach had a methodology. In other words, a full-fledged process, which is kind of crazy because it's something that I'm really passionate about people having processes and methodologies and outcomes, right? And so that's the one thing that I didn't do. So that was from part one. So part one was all about being stuck, doing all the things that everyone told me to do and getting absolutely nowhere, right? So what do you do when you're in that point? Well, I'll tell you what I did, and that's part two, which is self-analysis. So part two of the 6 kick-ass strategies of the $1 Million Entrepreneur is all about self-analysis. Let me say hello to a couple of people. Hi, you guys are coming in. I'm Michael and Natanya and everyone joining me. So let's talk about part two. So self-analysis of the 6 kick-ass strategies of the $1 Million Entrepreneur. Like many second-time business owners, I knew the entrepreneurial journey well. The highs were like 420 in Amsterdam, and the lows were like a surprise drug test on 421. My history and experience gave me all the tools needed to start a business with just a telephone call and a good idea. I was a bootstrapper. Less than 20 years earlier, my business partner, Alan, and I co-founded BizIntel, an international business intelligence company responsible for a team of careers, millions in revenue, and a 40% profit margin. My new business's projections were only a tenth of that with a much higher profit margin. So this new business venture should be about 10 times easier, right? Of course it should be easy. As long as easy means struggling like a 120-year-old stiletto-wearing stripper with a bum leg pole dancing for hip replacement money. Not only was I struggling, but the scrappy senior citizen was stealing my customers, my moves, and my tips. Needless to say, I was having a really freaking hard time in this entrepreneurial journey. It was time to have a come to Jesus meeting with the CEO in the mirror about this so-called business. Thus far, I proved myself to be just another business lemming. Have you guys been there? I was blindly following the crowd, but no one was doing the same thing. So I wasn't sure what was working versus what wasn't, or what I should do next. I mean, haven't we all been there? We're trying to, again, find the magic potion, find the magic path, and then we get stuck. The mindset of an entrepreneur. I was usually pretty good at making decisions, but for some reason, picking a business model was kicking my ass. Was I selling to consumers or large corporations? Was I B2C or B2B? Should I spend more time wooing customers with great social media marketing campaigns? Or should I reach out to corporate decision makers who probably don't spend a lot of their day on social media? My son, Travian, observed that because I struggled to make a decision, it likely meant that I wasn't a serial killer. And he was happy to finally check that off the list. Yeah, sons aren't always the most helpful. It turns out that the Latin root of decide, C-I-D-E, means to kill. To decide an issue essentially means to kill the alternatives. Normally, I was the Ted Bundy of alternative annihilation, but for some reason, I was completely off my game. I couldn't decide. I couldn't pick a path. I couldn't even pick an expertise. Where had the entrepreneur gone that had once started a new business with 2 sons in elementary school, a new house whose ink had barely dried on the closing papers, and a husband working with a new company for only a few years? Where was the laser-focused woman who had dared to take risks, reap rewards, and worry about the fallout later? It was as if someone had lobotomized her and left this indecisiveness wilderness wanderer feeling squeamish about the thought of eating grubs to survive. She had to go, and Dawnna 2.0 needed to emerge fast. I wasn't about going back. I'd learned too much over the past 20 years to go back. It was all about leveraging all the education, experience, tools, and courage, if I could muster it, at my disposal to move forward. To do so, I had to get my head right. I had to fix my mindset. Cue J.K. Rowling. As if divine intervention were paving the road to my future, the story of J.K. Rowling, the author of Harry Potter series, showed up as an article in my inbox. Dawnna, seriously, read this now, read the subject line. The story goes that J.K. Rowling had tried to get agents to look at her book, and she was turned down flat for over a year. When she finally did get a literary agent, every publishing house turned her down. They hated the story, her writing, the name Harry. It didn't matter. They hated everything. The rejection letters poured in like Moet on New Year's Eve in Paris. This went on for another year, until finally she was able to get an advance for $4,000 from Bloomsbury. And the only reason she earned that much was due to Alice Newton, an 8-year-old daughter of the Bloomsbury chairman. She was given the first chapter to review by her father and immediately demanded the next. Think about that. An 8-year-old made J.K. Rowling. Ms. Rowling was told that while she continues writing the book, she should get off welfare and get a job to support her daughter, as there was no money in children's books. None. Today, J.K. Rowling is worth $1 billion, and the Harry Potter franchise at the time that I wrote this book worth over $15 billion. How many times have you been told that your idea is worthless? And how many times did you give up? I was at that point when this came into my inbox. JK's stories really got my juices flowing. I wondered what other rags to riches stories were out there. Maybe I just needed a little inspiration or a reminder of what it's like to be a struggling entrepreneur who made it. My Google search coincidentally returned the story of two guys named Larry and Sergey. When Larry and Sergey started the business in the garage of a college friend, they were told that the search engine market was completely saturated. No matter how many requests were made, the dynamic duo couldn't get a meeting with investors. Today, Google isn't just their company's name, it's a verb. Finally, I stumbled upon the story about Western Union. On an internal memo at Western Union, it was written that the telephone had entirely too many shortcomings to be seriously considered as a viable means of communications. Wow. I'm like Pavlov's dog when it comes to answering my phone. Talk about not being able to see the possibilities. These three stories taught me three very different lessons. J.K. Rowling's belief in herself propelled her even when other people literally told her that she wasn't good enough. Larry and Sergey didn't let an overcrowded marketplace stop them. In fact, if the marketplace is too crowded, that means no one is standing out. There is an opportunity to be outstanding. And Western Union taught me that just because someone can't see your vision doesn't mean that your vision lacks merit. I was inspired. I knew I needed to take action. Have you been there? I mean, I'm pausing for a second, but have you been there? People don't believe in you. They think your vision is ridiculous. Or my favorite is the marketplace is overcrowded. Let me tell you, Whenever I see that a marketplace is overcrowded, I'm like, that's because everybody's doing the same thing. And no one's become the figurehead in that marketplace. It's time to take over. The problem, I'm glad you like that, Robert. The problem with decisions. Sensing that I was off my game, Travian suggested that I shouldn't choose a model, but rather I draft 2 models. Regardless of which model I started with, I should give myself permission to choose again if the first one didn't measure up. Operative word there is permission to choose again, permission to fail. We don't give ourselves permission to fail often enough. I was ready to create my models and I knew exactly where to start. See, when Alan and I built Business Intel all those years ago, I kept a collection of little black diaries that detailed the 6 strategies we use to start, run, and repeat the success of business growth while sidestepping business landmines. All I had to do was climb into the crawl space over my garage, evade cobwebs, anthrax, and Ebola, and dig through boxes to find them. So, self-analysis part 2 is really all about changing your mind. It's all about the mindset. It's all about getting rid of the naysayers and people who think that it's just not possible. It's about getting rid of all the gunk that's in your way. It's really sitting there, and what I like to call it is, people say fake it till you make it, and I really hate that terminology because I really think we should be authentic. So to me, this is all about acting as if. Acting as if the future that you're going for already exists and it's just waiting for you to catch up. It's acting as if. It's not following someone else's path. It's knowing that your future is there and that you are literally taking steps right now, today, to get there. Even if it just means sitting here and listening to me read a book, which, yeah, I know it shows up backwards on here, but even if it means just sitting here and reading a book, what you're really learning is that there is an opportunity for you to act as if. And I put these things into place. It's getting rid of the noise, exactly. Getting rid of the noise, cutting out the doubters, and stop being risk averse. Here's the thing. There's a difference between a doubter and someone who is critiquing you. And most people get those things completely different, completely wrong. So a doubter is someone who's telling you it cannot be done. The other person is someone who's telling you it can be done, but these are the slight tweaks that you might have to make to get there. I've had people come to me and tell me that they want to do a business on something that, quite honestly, I totally didn't believe in at all. But then I said, it's not for me to believe in because I might not be your target market. And that's okay. I don't have to be your target market. But what we can do is we can identify who your target market is, find out what their frustrations are, and then tweak your message, tweak your product, tweak your solution, and even get a better understanding of what their frustration is. So that way we can tweak your work just enough so that they are interested in it, so that you're not chasing the dollars, but the dollars are chasing you. That's the difference. You know, recently I was at NSADC, and they were doing something kind of like American Idol for speakers, and I was one of the judges. And I jokingly said, I'm the Simon Cowell of judges here today. And while there are things that you're going to do well, I'm really going to identify the things that you could do better, because it's those things that if you make these slight tweaks, that you'll see a significant improvement. Now, most of the time it was burying the lead. The beginning of their talk was somewhere down 2/3 into their speech. Sometimes it was a powerful closing. Sometimes it was just being authentically who they were. But here's the thing. Regardless of my critique, I had nothing to gain. I had nothing to lose. It was literally just making the person that was on stage delivering a little bit better. But honestly, some people didn't appreciate the criticism. And that's what they thought it was. And a couple of people actually told me that I was extremely harsh and that it was a little too harsh. Here's the thing. When you get into your mindset and when you are strong enough and you ask for that feedback, here's the other thing that you have to do. As you strengthen your mind, you must also thicken your skin. Because if you're thin, your skin is too thin, people won't give you the critical feedback that you need because they'll think you can't handle it. Anyway, that was part 2. Tomorrow is all about part 3, which is sine qua non. So sine qua non, right? So yes, Michael, there are speakers with egos. I know, it's hard to believe. Even before they become speakers, you can have someone with egos. Isn't that crazy? Anyway, tomorrow is all about sine qua non, which is actually kind of a unique concept. I hope you guys enjoyed today's reading. I shall see you tomorrow. And this is Dawnna St. Louis. Have a fantastic day.